Ailbhe. Hi, Ailbhe. Hi, Ailbhe.
Hey, Katie. Hey, Katie. How are
How
you
many
doing?
introductions? I'm good. Yeah. Anyway.
Nice.
So, Popper 10.
It's almost like a lullaby type song, even though I know the fortissimo wouldn't really make you think that, but I can imagine falling asleep to this.
Yeah. Very mellow. Mellow cello
In
action
a
going
good
on
way,
here.
not falling
Yeah.
asleep in a bad way.
No. Falling asleep thinking about some profound thoughts of
That is
life.
exactly the way it would be. It's the only way to fall asleep, right?
I've got a good story for this one, actually.
Ooh, hit me.
I didn't remember this till I opened it up, but I played this for my undergraduate college auditions.
No.
Yes. I
Really?
don't know if that's still a requirement, but when I auditioned for music college, you had to play popper study for almost every conservatory. So yeah, I played this one.
That is very different to my undergraduate entrance exam where you could play anything you wanted. I think there was just a time limit. So I actually did a cello entrance and a piano entrance, would you believe?
I would believe coming from you, Alva, but that's insane. Yeah.
Mad. I'm very impressed you had to play that. So did you have a good time doing this in your auditions?
I guess so. I mean, as you pointed out in your really awesome video, like it's a lovely one. It's appassionato. It's really like cello-y and rich and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think about as much as one can enjoy playing a popper for an audition that determines the rest of your life, I think I probably enjoyed it. I,
Yeah, I just think it's really pretty as well, and it's quite fun and satisfying to be playing
yeah.
those Legato notes and the string crossings, and really pretty.
I think one of the hidden tricky bits of this actually is the legato, really playing ultra smooth. I mean, even that first bar to get the connection between the string crossing and that open C without an accent
Yeah,
um,
maybe.
is a
I
challenge.
I always find it quite entertaining to think about: am I trying to do it with my fingers or the whole arm? What did you do?
Yeah. I experimented with that a bit. I experimented a bit with really starting with a larger gesture, but I think it's mostly coming from my arm. It's
Yeah,
mostly this opening from the underarm for the first part is I think how I'm approaching it.
yeah. It's funny because I played around with doing it different ways.
Where in the hand are you feeling that?
So I actually like to play around with letting. So either in order to change your level, you can either physically move up your elbow using your whole arm, right?
Mm.
Or you can actually just let the bow. See the way we have that height in our bow hold all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can sometimes just let the bow come on its own up into the next level, and then you can actually move your arm up later. So sometimes just by slipping, see the way my fourth finger is essentially pulling it up.
Yeah.
So sometimes I like to play around with that, so there's not so much. You might find in something that's very stringy that you end up doing a little bit of the chicken dance a lot, and quite often for me this that kind of feeling of supple bowing makes
Yeah.
it less what's the word I'm looking for? I suppose more legato in general without such a big movement. But it's
Mm.
quite a hard one to control. So obviously it's a catch-22. You have to practice that. You can see my arm's not really getting involved at all.
Yeah. That's such a great way of explaining it, Alva.
Maybe.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So, another question. You know this bit near the end. Any
Yes.
top tips for that, for finding that note? I always find fourth finger in those situations very awkward.
Yeah. Well, good question for you. Would you ever use fourth finger in real life as a cellist? I mean, how often does it come up, really?
Yeah, there's not too many instances, although something like this, there's
Yeah.
really no other option, is there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any rep where that actually happens, though. I mean, apart from Popper, who just loved to torture us in his daily life. For me, what I like doing a lot is just what I said in that video earlier, is moving the wrist this way so that the weight gets much more on top of the finger. So I really need to feel like the weight actually is on top, not that we're doing this,
Right.
you know, and trying to get the weight down from underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just letting the weight fall into your hand. I talk about that all the time with my students is, you know, when you're playing in thumb position, I mean, there's two things I feel like that can make it out of tune. One is your, you know, spacing and position, which everyone usually thinks of first. But the second one is balance. Yeah. You know, you can be having your hand in completely the correct position, but if the balance in your hand is wrong, it's just not going to be in tune.
This is true. And I have a student at the moment who, even in fourth position, tends to, and you know the way we're always trying to get people to be really balanced at that area. It's awkward as it is. But just sometimes they might come back to their first finger and then not quite get back up if they have, say, a 1-4, and they do play flat a lot because of that balance issue. So we're actually working just on that, and it's the same everywhere. I think that if your hand balance is not over the finger playing, which is what we tried to do from the start, then it's going to be a problem. Interesting that you talk about that bit, because I also thought what was actually even harder for me was this one, because obviously that's totally fine, but then how do you keep the weight exactly the same on that G, and then keep the balance of the fingers where you want here? And then also the bow weight on the bottom string, so the tuning bit comes out. Tuning bit.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I mean, I have to say with that, I'm kind of more thinking of my hand as like, you know, a bridge with two pillars that are holding up the bridge. It's like my thumb is one and my third finger is one. So the balance is actually kind of really firmly over both. I mean, there, you know, if we were doing a lot of like stuff like that, we might be able to balance more there, or if it was more up here. But because you have to go really, as you say, sustain that. So I guess when I start that fifth, I'm already anticipating that sort of pillar.
I do like that idea of anticipating that like a singer would. You know, if they're actually going up to a high pitch, they're already feeling the lower notes in the higher register. So that it's not so much of a surprise. So even though it all looks totally fine down there, it's just... So here, you really should be... And that's where you're settled, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Great.
Speaking of which, that's great reference to, well, I'm sure many musicians talk about this, but that was a big theme in the Starker school, wasn't it? Like everything about anticipation, you know. Stark was a big fan of that. Like, I remember with all that, he was like, anticipate. I mean, it's so, like, Popper's such a great opportunity to practice that with all things, you know, anticipating something like that, like a singer would, but even just, you know, looking ahead to these passages that are difficult, having that sense of wherewithal to, like, plan ahead as you're playing. You know, you can't be so in the moment that you're not prepared for what's coming. So
exactly, and for all of those string crossings, I really felt that I had to have my bow moving well before my fingers did for the, you know, any of those move. I'm even too late there. Move. You know, so I've really started that bow crossing well before it, or else my legato is just not as legato as I'd like. So what did you think of that lovely thumb position bit?
Oh, I liked the way you thought about practicing the thirds. I did that after I saw your video.
Did you?
Yeah.
I liked your thumb version of it, because I haven't done that either.
Yeah.
So, like when two powers combine.
Cello power. No, seriously, it's like 2 bites are better than one, for sure.
This is the point, right? You know, extra
absolutely.
Ideas make it the better cellist. It's good.
Well, I'll probably do like a separate video on like just hand anatomy, but I don't know if I've ever asked you this, is your first finger longer than your ring finger? No, you've got a longer ring finger.
Yeah.
So have I showed you this thing before? With the hand.
So.
Okay, so like I have a longer index finger than ring finger.
Let's see.
See that?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And yours is the other way. Which is why you're such a freaking brilliant cellist, and also because of all the hard work you've done in life. But so this is, I'll do a longer video about this, but it really affects things in thumb position, especially when you have extensions backwards, because you have the added longness of this finger that makes it really awkward.
Sure.
Plus, you're not able to stretch as much with this because it's shorter.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Someone did years and years ago say to me that I had cello hands. This is really funny, actually. It was Steve Dunn when I was about, I think maybe 12 or 15 or something like that. And I went to study with him later, and I said to him, I don't know if you remember, but you told me I had cello hands. And he burst out laughing. I think he obviously just made it up at the time. But I think what he was talking about was the fact that if your fingers are kind of all similar, lengths, so it is handy. But I suppose it's like playing the piano. You just try and create the curves so that they are all the same length.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, right, we often have multiple solutions to the same problem. So if I was playing something lyrical, I probably would not choose to do it in an extended back thumb position like that, because I literally have to play on like the opposite side of my finger sometimes. So yeah, it's really interesting, but it's one of those things. It is possible. It's just, like, I wanted to highlight the fact that we're all different. So, everybody's going to have things that they find more difficult because of their anatomy and whatnot.
And
so
you become better at your own skills by virtue of the fact that you use them more. So it's fascinating. Do you ever use the nail technique? I don't put my finger flat on the string there.
Oh, right.
I actually curve. Have a look at this thing. I'm trying to see which way you'd be able to see it best. So I'm actually physically putting the nail underneath on the side, like you kind of, the way you cheat for harmonics as well.
Yeah.
So it's more comfortable for my hand, and you basically don't have to put any pressure really down because the thumb's already holding it down, and it's a sneaky cheat to be more comfortable. That's the whole way I do all this.
I think what you're saying that you're doing, I think that is basically how I constantly play with my first finger in thumb position.
Interesting.
Without thinking about, I think that's what I do. At least, certainly when it's an extension. That is my modus operandi.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people use it. And the only difference is obviously it's much easier when we've practiced to just come down in this direction. But if you have to be in this direction, that's impractical because your tendons won't let you do it. So if you can do that, then it saves it and produces way less tension, and therefore you're a happier thumb position person.
Happy thumb position.
I mean, that's what we're all for.
Words you don't often hear together, but should be uttered more often. Anything else to mention that we haven't covered? I don't know.
Weird little tricky spots, I thought, when you do... So there, it's not really practical for such a short period of time to use your whole arm, is it?
Yeah.
So that would be one of those places that I would actually use later in the video, where I would use just a little bit of the wrist as opposed to the whole arm. I think here in the next one. But then making sure it's legato.
Yeah, you definitely have to use a lot of fingers there to get the legato. Yeah. Totally.
And prepare, anticipate.
All the things.
Right, should we go for a thing?
Let's go for it. All right, here goes nothing.
Right. Yay!
Woo!
Beautiful ending. Oh my god, how stunning.
Yay! Oh man, Ailbhe, that was great as usual. You know, every time I hear you do these, it's so inspiring to me because you just represent like everything I care about in music with your playing, which is like always going for it. You know, like the most important thing is like it's a performance. You have to go for it. Like if not now, then when?
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Well, thank
yeah.
you. You're very kind. I mean, sometimes it works wonderfully, and other times it fails miserably. But you know, it's. I definitely think you're better to go for it than not.
I loved your like dramatic moments. Like that fortissimo arrival was so raw.
Well, I mean, it's a really good moment, isn't it? Everyone loves an open C string. All the
I
cellists in
know.
the world, right? They're just like,
Mahler 5, Adagietto. Oh, do you know
yeah,
that moment? Oh my
good
god.
times in life.
We've played that sitting next to each other actually.
That's true.
That was great. Thanks, Ailbhe.
Yeah, that was lovely. Looking forward to next time.
Yeah, and we've got a guest next time. So
I know.
that will
How
be
very
fun.
exciting. Our first ever guest.
I know. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Looking forward
So
to it.
cool. All right, I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.